Okay, cool. So we're live. I don't know if we have any viewers with us just yet, but we are live on YouTube as well as Comcast Channel 9. So thank you everyone who is watching, or maybe you're hearing this on a replay on WJOP. No matter where or when you're hearing this, we're happy to have you. We are celebrating our day of anti-racism today, which of course we will be working to extend beyond just one day, incorporating all of the learning that we're doing today into our everyday lives as much as we possibly can. So today is a really special day for our community, as you guys know, or maybe you don't. We are hosting an anti-racism and discrimination community discussion tonight on Zoom at 6 p.m. And so if you want to join and actually participate in this dialogue, we have a really amazing guest speaker. Her name is Susan X. Jane, and she has over 25 years of experience with diversity, training, leadership, and a whole bunch of cool info to share with us. So if you want to join, that's tonight at 6 p.m. and you can contact me at jessica@ncmhub.org. So email me, shoot me an email, or you can check out our Facebook page at NCM Hub. So let's get into why we're here today. Today we have Stella Akaya and Emma Keith joining us from NHS, a part of the Art Honor Society, as well as NHS alumni, Cecily D'Angelo, who was also a part of the Art Honor Society when we were in high school. So thank you guys again for being a part of this day. I'm looking forward to talking with you all more and learning about the work that you are doing. So Stella, I originally met you in regards to the fundraiser that you and Emma are working on, and we got connected through my executive director, Sarah Hayden. And I just want to give a quick little shout out to Sarah because she makes everything happen here, and we wouldn't be able to be offering these awesome programs to our community without her. So that's how you and I got connected, Stella. So if you want to introduce yourself, and then Emma, you can go ahead, and Cecily, we'd love to hear from you too.
So hi, I'm Stella Okaya, and I'm a senior at Newburyport High School, and I'm historian for the National Art Honor Society at Newburyport High School.
I'm Emma Keith. I'm going to be a rising senior at Newburyport High School as well, and I'm the president of the National Art Honor Society.
My name is Cecily D'Angelo. I'm a senior at Northeastern University, and I am part of an organization called the BLM Art Auction.
Awesome. Yeah, so we are very lucky to have you ladies. You're all so talented, and I'm very grateful for the work that you're doing, as well as just having you here to talk. I just want to say, Stella, if you can speak a little louder, I know that I think you're a little quiet on air. But yeah, so if you guys want to tell us, maybe Stella, you could start telling us about the fundraiser that you guys are working to put out. It's coming up this Saturday, right? So if you want to tell us a little bit more about that, that'd be awesome.
So the Art Honor Society and students from Poetry Soup are holding a art and poetry student fundraiser at Newburyport High School on the front lawn from 1 to 4, just for advocacy for social justice. And I first got involved because Emma actually reached out to us, and it was in June and in response to everything going on with the George Floyd protests. And if she wants to say anything about how that first started, because she actually reached out to us and then spoke to the art teachers.
Yeah, Emma, do you want to hop in?
Yeah, I can speak a little on behalf of that. So I know everyone's kind of familiar with what happened on the news. It's kind of hard to not see, because if it wasn't on the news, you saw it on social media. And there's a big movement with George Floyd, and it was kind of the thing where you see stuff and then you see people reposting about it, and then you feel bad about it, but you feel like there's also nothing that you can directly do. And then it happened again with Breonna Taylor, and then it gets hard to see this repetitiveness in the world, and then feel like you're so helpless to not do anything, where the only thing you feel like you can do is repost in your social media. And around that time, there was a lot of protests happening, but I couldn't attend any because someone in my immediate family had COVID. So I was just kind of like stuck in my house, quarantining, feeling like very helpless. Until I like, and then I guess it really hit home when, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the rise of the 2010 blackface in our yearbook. That kind of came out. And then there was like a young boy that was called like, who got like racist slurs yelled at him downtown Newburyport. And then there was more racist slurs being spray painted behind our local CVS. And it's hard to like comprehend everything that happens way outside of our community. And it's not like it seems not real. It just seems like it's like it happens, but it doesn't happen where you live. And then it just starts to hit really close to home when it happens in your own community. And that's the point where I was like, we need to do something. And then that's when I kind of got the idea to use my platform as the president of the National Art Honor Society to do something meaningful and impactful using voices behind student art, student poetry, and student music. So that's when I kind of reached out to my other officers, and then later the advisors, and then the principal of our school, and then talked to the superintendent of the school to try to get this, to make this like event a reality that will be happening this Saturday. And it was, I mean, I definitely owe so much credit to Stella and the other officers and advisors because there's so much work that went into this that I couldn't have done without them. And I would also like to give some credit to Mrs. Zabo, who is our creative writing at night teacher, who kind of heads the poetry soup. It happens throughout the year, like once a month in our local bookstore, where she gets poets and kind of like riles up a lot of student poetry. And she is also a major part in this because she is the one who organized all these students to come who will be speaking on Saturday as well. And then another thanks to Alex Parr, who just graduated, and the rest of his band, who will also be playing on Saturday.
Very cool. Very cool. We actually work with Alex Parr here and there as well, so that's awesome. And Deb Zabo definitely puts in a lot of work for these types of events too. It's really cool. I definitely commend you for all of your effort. Very, very awesome. We definitely need more community organization around these issues, I think. And a big part of like what you just said, it hits so close to home. And I think that we have that privilege of only sometimes experiencing it hitting so close to home, where other people who don't look like us and have our colored skin color are being faced with this in their every single day life. So I do think that there has been sort of like an awakening since these uprisings. And it's interesting to hear your perspective on media and how we've been using media to talk about these things, because as much as it can be like something that keeps us stuck and like that's the only place that we can use advocacy, technology is also the reason that we're here today and that we're able to talk. So there's definitely a balance of being able to use the resources that we have to try to make a difference. Really, really commend you for what you're doing. Cecily, if you want to tell us a little bit about the Black Lives Matter art auction. It's a similar thing, but I know that you are donating directly to Black Lives Matter, and Stella and Emma, you guys can talk about the places that you're donating to after we hear from Cecily.
Yeah, so I felt super similarly as Emma was talking about being a white woman from a predominantly white town. I felt like I needed to use that position of privilege for a greater good. And what I really wanted to do was amplify Black voices. And what happened is I ended up connecting with this group of women from Massachusetts, from all over. And we all felt the same way, that we really wanted to make a difference and we wanted to do something that was tangible. So we wanted to actually raise money and we wanted to do it consistently and we wanted to donate it directly to Black communities. And so what we did is we created an Instagram account and we tried to generate as much of a following as we could in the first couple of weeks. And then we asked artists from all over if they would donate their artwork. And then we took original prints and we auctioned them off. So far we've done 3 auctions. And then we've also done print drops. So the print drops are 24/7. And then, so you can buy any print, any size you want. Prices vary at any day. And then we have auctions that last 48 hours. So people will bid in the comments, and then once we get all that money gathered, we have it matched, and then we donate directly to another organization that donates that to the community. So like you said, for the first auction, we actually donated to 7 different foundations. Black Lives Matter Boston, the Loveland Foundation, which it is an organization that was started by Rachel Cargill. And what it does is, or what she does, I guess, is donates all the money that she has raised to help women and children of color gain access to therapy services. So those were 2 of the first 7. And then on our most recent auction, we actually decided to donate 100% of our profits to one organization so that we would have a greater impact. And so we donated 100% of our profits to Black Mamas Matter, which goes to alleviate any discrepancies between people of color in healthcare versus non-people of color. There's a great disparity there. And so we're excited about that. So we could donate that money and it would go directly towards women that are pregnant and laboring. So it's just a little bit about what we have done so far.
Wow, those sound like really awesome causes, especially, I know are you working in the medical field right now?
Not right now. So I am a nursing student, but I'm technically on co-op right now. But once I graduate, then yes, I will be like.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
That's so cool. I love that cause. I think that that's a big issue that a lot of people probably don't know about either, that pregnant women who are in hospitals are often not taken seriously when they have like a brown color skin, which is heartbreaking. So I love that. I love those causes that you're donating to. And you've also done a lot of beautiful artwork. I just want to take a second to I have totally looked at so many of your paintings and they're so beautiful. Totally up your alley. I just see you being so directly involved with this. Makes so much sense. Do you guys want to also talk about the foundations that you're donating to, Stella and Emma?
Yeah, so since our event is like a one-day thing, we're actually donating to one organization, and that'll be the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which is a nonprofit that provides scholarships and financial opportunities to Black students going into college and just throughout K-12 education. Yeah, it's like one of the largest and best known organizations that does that type of work and provides financial support for Black youth. So we're really excited to choose that one.
Yeah, we just also wanted to note that going into creating the event and going into it, we originally wanted to donate to Black Lives Matter Boston, but we were told by our principal, who's kind of under the regulations of the rest of the school, that we couldn't donate anywhere that was political, which is kind of hard for us to see as officers and then take in, because we were kind of just under the impression that Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, there's not really politics behind that, but it does have a political element in the organization, I guess. And so we couldn't donate to them originally. So it kind of took us a while to go through, because we first found a couple locations or organizations that were far away, but we wanted to pick an organization that was kind of based around Boston so that our change could kind of impact our community a little more directly. And then we kind of landed on the George Thurgood Marshall Foundation, because all the proceeds go to help students, and we felt that it would be most powerful from us as students helping other students.
Definitely. I think that makes so much sense. I think, it's a shame that equality has been politicized, but I'm just glad to see that you guys aren't letting, you know, any backlash that you've received hold you back in any way. Would you say that you've had backlash or any experience with, you know, responses that you didn't expect, or any trouble at all with this process?
Yeah, I would say I think getting involved with our school kind of, you know, complicates our initial purpose to make this about Black Lives Matter, because the administration obviously has to consider what holding an event surrounded around racial justice, like what kind of message that sends out to the community. And like you said, it's unfortunate that it has to become politicized and or controversial, but it was definitely, there were a few roadblocks along the way, like when we made a poster design to use the ally fist, and that was sort of like triggered another conversation that I think for students, like for our officers, we didn't know that that was something that was gonna, you know, possibly upset people or start a conversation about whether or not that's okay to put out there. And I think I think like, I don't know if I could call it backlash necessarily, but sort of being cautious around the possibility of receiving backlash in the future. Like if us students put up an event that was, you know, pro Black Lives Matter, and we were using symbols that are associated with Black Lives Matter, our principal and our superintendent kind of became worried about how that would, you know, come to, I don't know, possibly hurt us in the future. And we weren't thinking about that. And I still sort of am not too worried about that, because this is a conversation we need to have. But it was definitely, it definitely triggered some like obvious flaws in how other people think versus how we think about this issue that we didn't really know were going to come up.
Yeah, also being in the school and being a part of like the Anti-Defamation League, our school even like employed, we had 2 Black women come in to talk about a lot of like social justice issues and race issues, and then just like inequality all around, and like what we experience in our school and in our world. And the whole point of like having those people come in were to like break down barriers and feel comfortable and safe having those deep conversations, because they're the important conversations you need to have. And I think as students, we thought that we were taking those next steps after having the important conversations to make those important actions that need to follow, because there's only so much you can talk about until you need to institute some tangible change. And I think we felt that when we were taking those steps, that's when our school kind of gave us the pushback that was like, no, like we need to be considerate about other people's like feelings, or maybe this offends someone, and like we don't want to offend anyone, and we of course don't want to offend anyone. But I just think that if we're taking the time to break down those barriers, when we go to make the actions, we shouldn't have to tiptoe around what we think may be offensive to some people, which is, there's definitely a fine line there, and it's hard to navigate. But I think we just got a little more backlash than we were intending. And then especially just this past weekend, I went to distribute the posters. So we made posters to advertise for the event that Stella was just talking about. And then if anyone saw the posters, huge credits to Stella because she drew the photo on them and it's really good. But I went around like all over Newburyport distributing them on like a lot of, like I went to our state parks, and then all the other parks in Newburyport, the beach, and then just a lot of shops downtown. And there's a lot of store owners that were like very supportive and asked for 2 and would hang them up in the front windows and the back windows. And then I did get into a lot of stores where a couple people would like take the posters and then kind of just like threw them in the trash can, which was just a little like difficult to see, because you think you're, or like we feel that we're doing something good and we're trying to help, and then it's just a little like daunting to take those steps to make change, and then just see people quite literally trashing what you're trying to do.
I also think it was difficult for us to wrap our heads around the possibility that what we're doing was or ever would be offensive, because we're also doing our event in the most peaceful way that you possibly could. We're just a bunch of art and poetry students reading our own work and selling our own work, and it was difficult to understand, I think, at first, that this was controversial, and it also just it pushed the more understanding that this is definitely something we need to address in our own community. And I think ways that it became more complicated for us as well is that the school is more they're going about this in more of a slow, like, we're planning to implement, instruction on how to, be not prejudiced and to address racism. But we also, like, with this event, we wanted to make immediate change in our community and say we need to address anti-racism and we need to take down systemic racism and so forth.
Yeah, I think it does raise very fascinating points. And Cecily, I'll invite you to add anything as well. But the fact that you mentioned earlier, the poster, there was an element of inclusivity that was being questioned, and whether or not the poster was inclusive or not. And I think that just is a blatant disconnect between what is inclusivity and why are we working towards educating our community about diversity and our school system about diversity if we're not truly committed to creating diversity, because we are starting from a baseline of a predominantly white community where we're working to uplift a group of people. So yeah, I think it raises very fascinating points to think about with our community. Cecily, do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I feel super similarly. Like Emma was saying, so 2 years ago, I was in Market Square for Yankee Homecoming. I was doing artisan revival, and I had a Black friend with me. And an older woman walked by and used the N-word, and like just kept on walking. And that was the first time that I truly realized that I had never really been exposed to that type of racism before. And that was when I started to think about anti-racism teaching in our school system. And the more I thought about it, and especially since George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Elijah, it has made me so conscious of the fact that it is my responsibility to learn about that anti-racism or anti-racism practices and how to be a better ally by reading and researching. And I wish that the school system would take responsibility for that racism, not take full responsibility, but at least make and implement changes for them to educate their students. Because I mean, I graduated high school, and I'm sure you guys feel similarly. We never talked about racism in any of our classes. And for me to witness that not until years after, I think is a huge problem. And I think the earlier that the education system can take responsibility for implementing practices or forums or daily messaging, whatever it is, or even just like you guys are saying, like, there's no reason that you wanting to donate money to an organization that is solely helping people. There is no controversy around it. There should be no controversy around you donating money for a cause, no matter what the cause is. And I think that this all goes to the same point, is that we have been sheltered in a very, very white community. And I think because of that, it's so important that we all take responsibility for our own teaching and push our community to do the same.
Absolutely. I could not have said that better. That is the entire goal of today. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation. And I hope that we can continue this, far beyond today. It really does raise a lot of important things to think about within our community, because it doesn't just start with us. Like, absolutely, it is our responsibility to educate ourselves, but it is also our responsibility to share the lessons that we learn with one another so that we can make sure that our community is becoming a safer place for people to feel safe in and feel comfortable to be themselves, because that is the reality. People aren't comfortable with just being in a place where that's awful, so horrible to hear about your friend. And it is something that we're sheltered from, that we don't, because we are lucky to have privilege. And that is just beyond me, that somebody could be walking by someone and be so, and it's a reality that we experience those reality checks, but this is the experience that many people have. Yeah, so we can definitely get very deep into our feelings, and I'm sure we will continue to do so, but I would love to talk more about the work that you guys are doing with art. And I'm curious if so moving from that place of kind of experiencing some backlash and realizing that there are some issues, whether it's in our school system or in our community at large, there are many systems at play with racism, of course. I'm curious if, Cecily, you're welcome to also add anything, but working with the school system, is there anything that you're taking away from that you might do differently when organizing a fundraiser like this, knowing that, who you're donating to is being kind of limited? Or how would you move from that place and do something differently, if at all?
Well, personally, I think that something we've learned from organizing this event is that this is not going to be the, final thing we do to try and push anti-racist work into our community. And considering the obstacles that we've faced and seen kind of, how much the school is able to help us to a certain point, I think in the future, we're going to have to consider like making our opinions on this and our feelings on this more apparent. And I think also with COVID and like trying to figure out the logistics over Zoom, it kind of complicated how much we could, prioritize our emotional response to this. And like at the very bottom line, what we're trying to do is use our resources to help a cause, like to contribute to a cause that we really care about. And, it became more complicated, but like in some ways when you have like a scheduled Zoom meeting where you just have to get through certain like details about how you're going to pull off this event. And also we didn't have like all the opportunities to meet with our principal and superintendent as we would have liked. Like we would have possibly been able to voice where we were at with this more clearly, and also, kind of early on get out of the way like the whole controversy and figure out where, like before planning things, like how much can we actually do and what is the school able to do. And I don't know, Emma could probably add on more to that as well.
Yeah, in the beginning, we kind of just went with this where we kind of played with the idea of doing it in Market Square, and then we thought about doing it at like Cashman Park or on the waterfront downtown, and then eventually we just kind of landed on the school because we all like belong to the school, and the National Art Honor Society is a part of the school, and then we don't have to worry about going through like our town or city regulations. So the school just kind of became the easiest option until we kind of realized that we were under a lot of regulations being at the school, and we would have that drawback from our like community and the principal of what we can and can't do. And in the beginning, I think that was a little like, it kind of made us feel like we didn't have the kind of freedom that we thought that we would have with the event before. and it was a little disappointing to land on the school. But I think now, looking back at it in hindsight, we set out to create this event to change like the wrongdoings and like what we saw needed, like kind of reform, and to build awareness about things in our town. But now, like looking a little more deeply at it, I think a lot of the things that need change are right in our school, and doing this event at our school kind of sends the message that yes, we have these restrictions, but we're not going to stop doing events like these. And we're all gathering together on Saturday to show that we care, and we'll use our voices through art and poetry and music to show that as a student body, this is what we care about. And we want you to care about that as well, and kind of maybe make some change within our school, and then broaden what they saw, or what we currently see as a conversation that is like untouchable, that we can't have, and kind of break down those barriers. So that's why I think that in hindsight, a little bit, doing it throughout the school is kind of the most important thing that we are doing.
Yeah, actually, I really agree with Emma on that, because like, although having those restrictions felt like very annoying at first, and it still sort of is, I think it was important for us to have that, because we can also sort of understand like what we need to fix in our community and what we need to fix in our school. And I think us being sort of exposed to that and having an understanding, like we can, you know, go into the future, into our senior year as well, trying to just bring that mindset with us and do more, and like write letters to Mr. Wolf or have more conversations with administration on how we can do better.
Yes, I was just going to say, I feel like you guys are accomplishing your mission, like bringing things to light. Definitely go ahead, Cecily.
Yeah, I was just going to say, although it wasn't what you initially planned, I think that those challenges also are drawing attention to the fact that there needs to be change. And I think it gives you a platform and almost evidence of that. You know, if you were able to go through with that initial plan that you guys had, because regardless, you're doing good, you're raising money and you're donating it to help Black communities. But now you have that evidence that people in our community are fighting against you to do that right thing. And I think you can use that to your advantage when you're speaking out and say, look, we tried to do this and this is what happened. We tried to do this and we had backlash. So you can use that as proof in your avenue for change. And I think although it's troublesome when it's happening, I think in the long run, you'll be able to use it to your advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Sally, you said that you struggled a little bit with switching totally digital, remote. I feel like, Cecily, you might have had a different experience with that, where it actually benefited you guys learning how to organize, because you are all across the East Coast. Do you want to talk a little bit about that experience with?
Yeah, so because we started digitally and in the middle of a pandemic, I think it almost worked in our favor, because people aren't at work, they're bored, they're at home, they're on social media, they're looking for something to do. And I think it also drew more attention to the Black Lives Matter movement that was happening all over the country. I think if people were going on with their regular lives, so busy, commuting in the morning, commuting at night, coming home, taking care of their kids, whatever it is, there would have been less attention. And I think for us, at least, because we were on a social, like accessible platform to everybody around the East Coast or West Coast or whatever it is, we were able to reach a greater audience, but also target people more directly because they were on their phones more. And I think if we had been in regular life and not in this pandemic, we may not have had the success that we have had so far. So for us, I know that you guys probably had different challenges, but I think for us, the digital platform has worked in our favor.
And I'm curious, have you received any backlash or any sort of negative response at all?
I think because we are a group of non-Black women. We are very open and welcoming to that criticism. I think we have not received like any explicit backlash. Especially we haven't received any backlash from people that don't believe in the Black Lives Matter movement, which whether or not you use the word believe, but we haven't received that kind of backlash. But I will say that we, from the very beginning, have been so committed to listening to Black commentary and Black people when they're telling us like, oh, this is something that you could do better, or this could have a greater impact. We've been very, very open to that and done our very best to implement those changes because we know that it's so important that this is not our voice, it's not our story to tell. And we really want to be an advocate for oppressed communities. So I think we experience backlash in a different way. I think not even I think backlash is the wrong word. I think we received criticism in a different way. And I think we're always striving to have more diverse buyers, more diverse artists. And one way that we've implemented that change is by using our platform not only for the auctions and for donations, but also to build relationships with people in the Black community. So specifically artists. So artists that we found on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever it is, if we were really impressed with them or community work that they were doing, or they, whatever it is, we reached out and tried to form relationships with them, and then eventually shared their work if they gave us permission to do so. And I think using the platform in that sense is also so important. I think it goes beyond the actual like community work and more so just prioritizing that like we're all humans and we should be maintaining relationships with as diverse of communities as we can. And I think that criticism that we may have received has actually allowed us to increase our work in the community, whether it's donation based or not.
Yeah, these are great points that you're bringing up. I know that you're also not accepting art. Are you not accepting art from people of color, or is it?
No, we totally are accepting from people of color. It's just that we're not. So on a daily basis, we're reaching out to artists and we're saying, hey, we're doing this auction. This is what we are. This is what we do. This is our angle. We'd love to have you donate. But we're making a point not to directly message Black artists and ask them to donate. If they would like to donate, we are absolutely accepting of that. But we don't want to expect Black artists to give us their free labor. We're trying to acknowledge the fact that this is an incredibly difficult time, and we would never want them, especially when our goal is to raise money for people in the Black community or any people of color. We would never want them to sacrifice their work, especially if that's their income. We would never want them to sacrifice their work to give to another person when you think about it, our actual cause is to help this person or this community. So I think we love any and all donations. We just are trying to be conscious of the fact that a donation is not for the purpose of the donation. It's what the actual help is as a result. And so I think that's where that comes in, is we don't want to expect anybody to give up their own success or money or whatever it is, time, energy, when they could be reserving it for something better.
Totally. Yeah, I think that I phrased that probably inaccurately. Of course, you would accept art from people of color, but yes, definitely not, asking for free art. When that's a great point. And I think that that's something that if someone was trying to emulate a similar fundraiser, that's a really key thing to think about, because it's not something that I would have thought about really until you mentioned it.
Right. And I think it's also, it pushes white artists to take a stand. So by us reaching out to white artists, we're saying like, you have a responsibility. Of course, we want to support all artists, and we would never want them to give away work that is supporting them. But by us reaching out to them, it's acknowledging like, hey, you are a white person of privilege. Maybe not all privilege is equal, but you should be, if we're not saying you should be, but giving them the opportunity to help and do something that they maybe wouldn't have if we weren't reaching out to them. So I think it also, I don't know, I think it helps the whole purpose by having white artists donate as much as they can.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I love what you're saying about being open to criticism. I think that that's not something that just you guys working with fundraising. It's like every individual needs to be open to criticism, specifically people who are just learning about anti-racism for the first time. As white people, we are vastly uneducated, and it is our responsibility to learn more. And the way that we learn is by listening to people and really, broadening our perspective. So it seems like you're doing a really great job with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that in general, this is a learning experience for us all, and I think that we can all agree on that. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about how long will your fundraiser go, Cecily? Specifically, do you have an end date, or?
Rather than being a fundraiser, we're looking at ourselves as an organization that will carry long term. When we started this, we all, as a group, acknowledged that racism is not something that's going to go away overnight. It's something that Black people and all people of color are going to battle for years and years and years to come, if not forever. So as long as we have art to donate, we'll be running auctions, that art that is being donated, we'll be running auctions. And because we have so many artists that are working with us, we've had repeat artists through several print jobs and auctions. So we're looking to do that as long as we possibly can based on the amount of art that we have. And if at some point we do run out of art or we stop, our donations slow down, we'll, I guess, shift our platform to doing other things. So whether it's promoting Black artists or sharing resources, whatever it is, we're gonna continue to utilize our platform as much as we can. And because I think there's 6 of us total working in the organization, we're able to all share that responsibility. And I think it allows us to be more effective, because when one of us is having an off day or someone's working, because I think almost everyone has a full-time job also, we're able to shift those responsibilities. And we are always looking for people to join our team, but also we want to make sure that we carry this out as long as we can. And we don't want it to die down, even if the movement dies down. I know people are saying once your Instagram feeds go back to normal or whatever it is, we definitely want to avoid that as much as we can, and use the platform for good as long as we can and as long as it's important.
Yeah, I think that a big part of this is acknowledging the fact that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So thinking long term is so important, and that's really exciting to hear that you guys are going to continue doing that and build out more of your organization. I'm really excited to see where that goes and where that takes you guys. Maybe Stella and Emma, maybe you can donate some art in the future if you're trying to think of ways to prolong your efforts as well. So your event, Stella and Emma, is on the 15th. It's on Saturday, right? And where can we find you? I know you mentioned it's at the high school. Where exactly?
So it's going to take place on the front lawn of the high school. We're going to have art scattered. It'll all be kind of in a line on easels. Everything will be spaced 6 feet apart to keep social distancing. And then it'll reach a little up the walkway, and then we'll have a table there for purchase. And then if you're looking at the high school from the high street point of view, our entrance is going to be on the walkway so there's the 2 entrances that come around for the loop where you would drop off at the front. Both of those are going to be closed off, and then the entrance that walk-in availability will be held at is going to be the entrance that goes to the gym. So kind of that driveway space. And then there's gonna be an entrance table right there for donations, and we'll give people information and regulate who's coming in so we can keep our numbers in check, because I believe we can only have 50 people at a time. And then parking is anywhere. I don't believe we can park on High Street because of construction that's happening, but any of the like downtown streets in front of the high school are definitely open for parking. And then the front steps of the high school will be running extension cords through the school so that Alex Parr and his band Pears and Plums will be able to play their music. And then on their off breaks and segments, we'll have student poets that will walk up to the front of the high school as well and use those microphones to give their like spoken word poetry that they've written.
Little fun fact, I'm actually going to be reading my original poetry there as well. So I
Oh,
guess that's
really?
where I'll be. So I'll
That's
see you
awesome.
there. I'm excited to be there. What time can people come visit and check out your art?
It'll be from 11 to 4.
And can you just repeat, where will the art specifically be? It's by the gym doors, you said?
The art is going to be on easels all throughout the front. So we'll have people enter through the gym, and or not the gym entrance, but the driveway entrance that kind of leads you right to the gym. It would be the third entrance if you're coming from Toppins. So people can walk in and enter that way, and then they'll walk towards that first kind of set of grass. That's like right there on the, it would be on your right if you're walking in, and there's going to be an enter table there. And then they'll walk to the grass that kind of lines the walkway that goes directly up to the school. And there's about 10 or 15 trees that are spaced about 7 or 8 feet apart. And I think we're going to put easels in front of each of those trees to naturally space. So the easels and the artwork will be directly in front of the school so that people who are looking at that art can also hear the music or poetry from the front of the high school.
Perfect. So it's going to be outside. All of it is outside?
Yes, and masks required.
Key info. Awesome. That's very, very good description. You were very detailed.
Thank you.
Definitely very excited, looking forward to that. And I'm excited to see where this takes you guys, because as much as, you know, this day of anti-racism that we're doing at NCM Hub, it's like we can have these one events and then it's like, okay, where do we go now? So I'm excited to see where your forward thinking takes you as well. And Cecily, if you want to tell us where people can access Black Lives Matter Art Auction as well, where can people find your art?
Yeah, so the auctions take place on our Instagram page. So the handle is at BLM Art Auction. And to find information about the organizations that we're donating to, about the auctions themselves, and then dates, you want to pay attention to our stories. And then usually the day or a couple days before our auction, we'll make an actual post about the time. They usually take place at 6 p.m. And they last 48 hours. And then we also have a Facebook page, same thing, BLM Art Auction, where we post updates, and we also post sneak peeks on there. So yeah, that's where you find all that information and the art as well.
Awesome. And you said that, so can you tell us a little about where are the artists from that are donating? I know they're all New England, right?
So we actually have some from California as well. So pretty much all over the US, and I think one from DC as well. Yeah. So we're really trying to expand not only our artists, but our team as well. So that we can have a greater impact. But yeah, we have people from all over the country so far. We've had buyers in Florida. So yeah, we're really trying to reach all over as far as we can.
Well, did it start, correct me if I'm wrong, but did it start with North Shore artists?
Yeah, so one of our original founders reached out to me. She had the initial idea and actually made the Instagram account, and then reached out to me and asked me if I would donate. being a local artist. And then I agreed and then decided to join her in that mission. And then we, at that point, really had no idea what we were doing. We didn't have a plan. And so once we got this big group together, I think in the beginning there were like 12 or 13 of us. But as we got more serious, some people were unable to keep up with it because we had no idea that it was going to be so successful and that we were going to be able to raise so much money. And so, yeah, it did start like really local, but the more money that we've made and the more we've been able to match our donations, I think we've had a greater impact. And so we've been able to stretch further across the country, which is really great.
That's incredible. I'm so glad that you are having so much success.
Yeah.
And that's really cool that you're surprising yourself. You didn't even realize how successful it would be. That's so cool.
It's been a really nice surprise to be able to know that we're actually able to raise money, especially as being an artist. Going into it, I knew how hard it is to sell art, you know. So I think what has helped so much is that we've had such a diverse portfolio of art, I guess. We've had so many different types, and we've had digital prints, we've had oil paintings, we've had collages, we've had all types. So I think it appeals to a greater group of people. Whereas when you have one artist like myself, it's harder to sell that one type of art and generate money that way. So it's worked really well for everybody. And I think it's also given exposure to artists and connected them because the artists ship directly to the buyer. So it also helps generate relationships between artists and also customers. So we've really been able to reach all facets of the business, I guess. So it's been really good.
Very cool. Have you ever done anything like this before with a fundraiser with art?
No, so not really. But when I was in the Art Honor Society at NHS, we did silent auctions and stuff like that at the Newburyport Art Association, but nothing really big on like community work or anything like that.
Awesome. Very cool. And what about you, Stella and Emma? Have you guys done anything like this before?
Not really. We have had like the art auctions at the Newburyport Art Association, but other than that, I haven't really ever done an event like this.
Yeah, I've never like kind of led or planned an event like this. But I have like helped out with the, like Stella was saying, the Newburyport Art Association auctions before.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to see, you guys succeeding and taking action. I'm very thankful that you've been a part of our day of anti-racism. I invite you guys to all join our conversation tonight. To anyone listening as well, I just want to remind you tonight at 6 p.m. we are hosting a community discussion about anti-racism and discrimination. We have an awesome guest speaker named Susan X. Jane, and she is going to be helping us dive deeper into talking about our community. I think that we did cover a lot in terms of, we've only graced the surface, but we've also got to talk a lot more about our community and some of the issues and the things that we can definitely work on as community members here in Newburyport. I'm going to open up just for you guys to share any last words if you want to speak on how you're feeling about this discussion or about our community or how you're feeling about moving forward. Anyone can hop on and say your last parting words.
I just want to say thank you for having us. It's been a good conversation. I think it's a really great start to open up that dialogue in our community.
Yeah, I agree with what Cecily said. Thank you so much for having us. I think this is great. And I hope both your organization and our fundraiser, hopefully this got a lot of like people kind of like know, get a lot of like views and eyes so that people know what's happening. And then kind of riles up our own community to want to help institute change and support what we're currently doing.
Yeah, both Emma and Cecily said that perfectly. I just want to thank you so much. And I'm glad that both of our organizations and our events are, helping our community and hopefully working towards a future where anti-racism is something that our community can likewise work on.
Awesome. Yeah, we will be sharing this link for our YouTube channel on our Facebook, and I'll get it sent to you guys too if you want to post it or share it anywhere. And yeah, we are definitely going to be posting the info for your auction at NHS coming up this weekend. Emma, you said you have an interview with the Daily News, so we are going to hop off a little bit early, but hopefully we can get some people from the school administration to join our conversation tonight, and we can continue this important dialogue. I'm so grateful to have you guys here, and I look forward to seeing where you guys head with your organizations and all of your work. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for everyone who is watching. And just a reminder again, if you want to join our community conversation tonight, 6 p.m. on Zoom, you can also watch it live on our YouTube or on Comcast Channel 9. Thanks, everyone.